You sound good on my end.
Okay. Okay.
Your
Cool.
background is blurry, and I wonder what you're hiding back there. But
You know what? I'm not going to tell you what I'm hiding back here. My stash of gummy nerds is back here, so that
oh,
no, I'm kidding. I wish I had a stash of gummy nerds. Welcome to the Greens and Blues 14er podcast. This episode, Zach is running on butter and caffeine. I go full on Steve Martin, and we offer up three early season hikes to start off your summer hiking season. Zach, good morning. You're wearing your Oklahoma Sooners t-shirt today. How are you?
I'm doing all right, Eric. We were just chatting before we recorded here about a week ago. We were in the Southern Sangres, got the absolute crap blown out of us.
By the wind, by the way.
By the yeah, I guess I should clarify by the wind, not by like we didn't do like some psyllium powder challenge or
Other
something like
other
that.
causes, no.
Yeah. Yeah, it just I did some hiking in the Southern Sangres, California Peak, and then Eric and I met up and did some of the far Southern Sangres north of Culebra. Boy, was that a windy day. At least 50 or 60 mile an hour sustained winds and at one point there was a saddle in between leaning north and leaning south peak. I thought, wow, I've never really understood how a wind could like blow you off a mountain, but I'm like, I
Yeah.
think I was starting to get this.
Yeah.
So since then, I've been good. That was a kind of miserable hike, but a fun trip. I'm home now. We were joking. Eric and I finished hiking about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and I thought I could just drive all the way back to Oklahoma in the night. You didn't say I was crazy, and so I was like, okay, I'll do this. I ended up getting home about 2:30 in the morning. I was telling Eric that somewhere in North Texas, I got chicken McNuggets because that's about the only place open at 11 o'clock at night. Chicken McNuggets and a Dr. Pepper, and man, that is like rocket fuel. That just kept me going. Once that kicked in, that last hour was dynamite. So glad I got to do that. Glad I'm here. How are you today, Eric?
I'm good. Yeah, I think the only reason I didn't call you crazy is because I thought you've done that trip before, like 9 hours at the end of the day, getting home in the middle of the night. You are able to pull that off in your mid to late 40s. That's impressive. So I don't know how you did that, other than the aforementioned fuel that helped you get the final stretch home.
Running on podcasts and McDonald's. That's what we're doing here. I kind of tend to like I know for most people like hiking is tiring and it is usually for me the next day, but like I'm kind of like juiced after I hike
Yeah.
like that, and
Oh
so
yeah.
the alternative is worse. It's I find some place to camp in like North Texas or Eastern New Mexico or something like that, and like no, we're not. I've done that before, and that, my friend, is not pleasant. So knowing what awaits me at home, a warm bed and waking up in my own home, I'd rather do that. So
It's always a
um,
good alternative.
yeah. Well, Eric, what are we talking about today, my friend?
What are we talking about? Well, this episode's going to come out in kind of mid-June 2026. We're going to talk about early season hikes that we are recommending to kind of start our summer hiking adventures. Any normal year, this really would be the time of year that would be an early season hike. In 2026, as dry and as warm as it's been, your early season hike might be in May, like
Yeah,
you and I had, Zach, or it might
yeah.
even be in April. Who knows? But in most years, these routes would be probably best to be done in kind of late June, early July to kind of get your summer condition hiking going. So that's what we're going to talk about. A few options that we feel are good starting points for the season.
When we went into this, we were thinking, okay, early season hike, I think it's got to meet a few criteria.
Hmm.
First, you don't want to be bogged down in too much snow. You want to go somewhere where You're not having to trek across a ton of snow because then that becomes a whole other, especially late in the season. It's not really snow, it's slush. It's
Yeah.
you're
Yep.
post holing a lot. So, criteria one, not a lot of post holing. Criteria two is that if it's early season and you've been waiting to do some hiking, you're probably not as fit as you would be rest of the year. So, second criteria is a hike that's not totally going to kill you. Third criteria is that actually you're going to have to edit that out because I don't know what the third criteria is, Eric. I don't know why I gave you a
I think
list of
those
three.
those two are perfect. Yeah, we might keep that in there.
Yeah.
That's fun, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll do that with students. I'll be like, and there's four things to remember here, and then I'll list the first three, and then I'll be like, what's the fourth?
It's only three.
There's only three. So yeah, really what we were trying to think of are hikes that kind of fit that bill, not too demanding and also good weather, less snow, and yeah, that's really about it. So we immediately, without conferring, came up with the same hike
Did.
for our best early season like tune-up hike. Eric, drum roll please, but what, and actually you're going to do the reveal. What's the hike that we came up with?
So I hiked this in 2025, actually late in the season, but I completely agree with you that as far as an early season summer hike, West Spanish really fits the bill well for a number of reasons, and mostly for the ones that you just mentioned. It's probably not going to knock you out, and from a snow perspective, you're probably even earlier in the summer, you're probably not going to encounter a whole lot. So, yeah, we both thought West Spanish was a great way to go.
For those of you that don't know, West Spanish Peak is in the southern Sangre de Cristos. If you look at a map, it's southeast of La Veta Pass. It's just east of Cucharas Pass, and Cordova Pass is actually the closest one. Another great reason that speaks for West Spanish Peak is there's actually a webcam that is focused on West Spanish Peak year round.
Ooh,
And
I didn't know that.
yeah, you can go on the internet and just type in Spanish Peaks webcam and it'll show you a live real time picture of it. So if you're ever wondering what the snow conditions are, you can be like, there it is.
That's perfect.
And you can see what the snow conditions are. And generally, the Spanish peaks are probably some of the most easternmost and southernmost peaks in Colorado. As a result, the Sangres are always a drier range than the rest of Colorado. And this part of the Sangres will certainly have less snow than the rest of the state, unless it's a weird year. But for the most part, the snow's going to melt from the south to the north. So Sangres will be climbable, particularly Spanish Peaks, probably a few weeks before anything else. So that's why we picked it. I've actually have done it as an early season hike, like an early June before, in an
Oh,
average snow year, and there really wasn't much snow.
okay.
So so it's great for that. And the other reason that speaks for it, as we'll get into in a second, is how long it is.
Mm.
And it's not that hard of a peak, which is great as a warm up. So yeah, do you want to talk about getting there, Eric, and just kind of what all that demands?
Yeah. So, and you summed it up perfectly, Zach. It's so far south that most people are going to take 25 south through Walsenburg, through La Veta and Cuchara, and eventually go east from Cucharas Pass to Cordova Pass. You have to pay a few bucks to park there. There is camping nearby too. Those look like pretty nice camping spots from what I could tell.
I camped
Um,
there, and yeah, those are good camping spots. I think about four spots there, and they
yep.
are non-reservable, so they're just first come, first serve.
Yep. So yeah, you get to the trailhead and you'll start walking south, really short trek through the forest until you get to this really open clearing, which is really pretty. It gives you your kind of your first glimpse of West Spanish. I
Hmm.
don't know if you can see East Spanish from there too, which is next door. It's kind of a high 12er.
Yeah.
West Spanish probably is obscuring it, is my guess. But the, so there are a few trail options, and I want to clarify this because
Options is a very politically correct word there. There's some social trailing that's occurred there that I think both of us got lost on at
yes,
certain points.
exactly. So you there are signs, but just keeping track of which signs are going to take you directly to West Spanish Peak as opposed to other outlooks or whatever. So you hike through the large meadow, and as soon as you start kind of entering the forest, you come to a trail junction, and there's really two ways you can go. One way is to the left, and it starts to kind of go uphill rather quickly. And to me, it felt like the right way to go. And before long, you come to this place where you're starting to walk downhill and you'll see a sign that says trail ends in 2 miles. And that's kind of a clear indication this is not the way that you want to go. And to your point, Zach, along that trail, there's all sorts of little trail segments and probably social trails where I just was running around not knowing where I was going. So
I,
um
I had a little walkabout in along the ridge line there on the northern ridge line for about 200 yards, and then it just faded into nothing, and I was like, what the heck happened with the trail? Like, this was like a big trail, and then it
yeah,
wasn't. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah, it don't feel bad if you get lost, but I think if you do find yourself deviating, just go back to where you last came from. I That's probably the best advice.
Agree with that. And I wish I would have taken that advice because once I got back to that junction, I was looking all around. I started actually going all the way back towards the trailhead thinking, what am I missing here? Because
I'm
the
going
only
home.
other
I'm out of here.
I almost gave up at that point. The only other option is to go due east and downhill. And to me, that was like completely counterintuitive. And I actually went back into the middle of this meadow thinking, I'm like having a crisis of belief. Like what am I supposed to be doing here? I'm like questioning life decisions
Yeah.
leading up to this point. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. The only option I could find makes no sense. And if I had studied the Climbing Coonies topo map, the direction that they give, it's pretty clear. You are actually supposed to take that east
Yeah.
going trail, which goes downhill. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense at first, but eventually you get to the bottom of that descent, and then you start going up some switchbacks, and
Yep.
one of the switchbacks has a sign that says West Peak, and it points to the correct direction to go. So that's kind of the clue that, okay, if you find that, you're going the right way. Otherwise, if you're questioning life decisions that you've made up to that point, you know what? I don't blame you.
Well, I'm glad we've had that. We've never actually talked about this, Eric.
I'm
I had the
surprised you did the
No,
same
I had the
thing.
exact same crisis in the exact same spot. Like I went left. I was like, no, you don't descend here. This is silly. So I went up, and then I walked along the ridge line, and then eventually it faded out into the trees. And I was like, what is this? A spot where people just like to use the bathroom or something? What's going on here? So I actually did not walk back. I did not follow my advice. Do as I say, not as I do. And I just like cut down. I'm like, well, I'll just go downhill. So I just bushwhacked through the trees, found the
Oh,
main trail,
wow.
and it is a short, you don't lose a lot of elevation. You don't,
Okay.
maybe you lose 30, 40 feet, but it
Right.
feels weird and counterintuitive. But yeah, then found myself kind of at the base of those switchbacks. When I did it in early June, there was a little snow in
Okay.
the trees below those switchbacks. Not much, but a little bit, but it was passable. This year, 2026, that sucker is already snow free. You are good
Yeah.
to go. So basically, you'll go up those switchbacks, and then at a certain point, the trail kind of fades out, and then you're just headed up the western ridge of Spanish Peak. Now, saying that, there are two options, or there's actually three options. There's the far northern ridge, which is what I think you and I chose to do. There's a gully to the right of that, or the south of that. And then there's another ridge to the south of that. I saw some yahoos going up the gully. That to me seemed a fool's errand.
Does not look pleasant.
Does not look pleasant. I don't know why you would do that.
No.
Just stay on ridge proper. I know in 13er parlance this sounds weird, but it's relatively short. It's not long and brutal. If it's a first of the season hike, you're probably going to be sucking a bit of wind anyway,
Yep.
which is okay because it's you're not going to be doing it for very long. You start out pretty high. The switchbacks take you a little higher, and then you've got maybe 1,200 vertical feet, but it's really not that bad.
Yeah. As I recall, there were actually some trail segments that you could
Yeah,
find along the way, and they're not permanent. You're gonna have to kind of look for them. So if I were to describe any kind of route finding after the aforementioned uncertainty in the good class one trail that's there,
Yeah, social
uh,
trails, I guess.
other than that, that's the only real route finding you'll have is if
Yeah,
you really want to make it easier on yourself to and find some trail segments. They're there if you want to look for them. Otherwise, just go up and
yeah,
you'll eventually find yourself, as you described, Zach, there's, 1,000, 1,200 feet of gain, something to that effect. And eventually you'll find yourself on the summit. I was very strangely walking up that ridge through clouds and eventually
ooh,
got to the point that on the summit, I was actually above the clouds. And so
oh
there were
wow,
actually a couple of strange points where I'm looking down and thinking, okay, these aren't like storm clouds, so I'm not going to get sucked in by anything, but I can't see where I'm going. So what should I be doing here? And I just kind of very, very slowly continued my way up. And eventually it cleared out enough to where on the summit, I mean, the views are amazing. You've got
yeah,
these amazing rock walls or rock ribs below you that are just I've never seen anything like it in
hmm,
Colorado or anywhere. They're really impressive. And yeah, I think everything combined made it for a really cool view, a really fun day. And as far as early season hikes, it was perfect. So I'm not sure what was your experience in terms of getting all the way to the summit, Zach?
before I say that, what you were saying, Eric, really reminds me. There's this German painter, Caspar David Friedrich, and he has a painting called Wanderer Above the Sea of Clouds.
Mm.
And if anyone's listening to this and can Google it and you're not driving and you don't want to risk running into somebody, it's an amazing painting. It's from 1818, kind of captures that feeling of being above clouds. But when I hiked it, it was a perfect bluebird day. There was not a cloud in the sky. You know, some peaks you feel great when you get to the top because you accomplished so much. I felt wonderful when I got to the top of West Spanish because I had accomplished so little. I just felt really good. I had not exerted too much effort to get up there. It's such a great perch. You can see the entire chain of the Sangres on a clear day,
Yeah.
all the way from New Mexico into, central Colorado. Like you can see up for a ways and you can see down for a ways too. Really enjoyed the view from there. You can also look out on the plains. You're kind of at
Mm.
the
Yeah.
easternmost vantage point of the Sangres, and you've got the Staked Plains and the Great Plains kind of laid out before you, going from there all the way to Missouri, essentially. So it's a pretty commanding view. It's a neat spot. I'm with you. The geologic features around the Spanish Peaks are really cool.
Yeah.
I think it's a sensational spot. I sat up there and I took an hour for lunch. I just sat up there and just enjoyed the views and took it all in because it was such a short hike. I didn't feel pressed for time at all. So, what a great way for me to open that hiking season. I think this was in 2023.
Mm.
What a wonderful way for the hiking season to begin with just such great views and just such an easy spot to get to. It was really nice. So, all that I think commends this as a really great early season hike.
Completely agree. And I would say there is a description on 14ers.com that mentions this as about an 8 mile round trip with about 2,400 feet of gain. Those numbers may sound a little bit on the big side for an early season hike, but I'm with you. I think it doesn't feel undoable as you're doing it. That made no sense. Undoable as you're doing it.
The
I-
first, like the first mile and a half, 2 miles is flat
is
essentially.
yeah, flat or even downhill. Yeah. So,
It's really you
um,
only make some progress in the last couple miles of this thing, and even
seriously,
those aren't super hard. So
no, agreed. And unless you're the bag of nonsense known as Eric Fredrickson, there's really not much route finding either that has to. So there's a lot of reasons to consider this one for an early season hike. There's a lot that speaks for it.
now we've neglected a couple things here in terms of drivability. What can we
Mm.
say about this? How easy slash hard is it to get to this trailhead?
I recall it being a gravel road, but nothing that a Subi or even I don't even know if a two-wheel drive car would struggle that
Oh
much.
yeah, like a Toyota Tercel could probably make it to the the trailhead.
Your Geo Metro will probably get
Yeah,
there okay as long as you don't go too fast around those curves.
yeah, right. Well, maybe that'd be fun. Yeah, campable, drivable, all that commends it too. Its access is not an issue. You're not going to tear your car up getting up there. Do you have any restaurant recommendations, Eric, for anywhere in this area?
I do, and you're laughing and smiling because you know that I do. I think I texted you from a little spot in Levada called Legends on Main, which, as I recall, a lot of different kinds of options. I think there was some American food,
Mhm.
there was some Mexican food. I had a burrito and an A&W root beer, and it was delightful overall. It was a great way to kind of re-energize before when you drive back to Oklahoma, Zach, you've got like a 9 hour drive. Mine is like a 2 hour drive. So I don't quite need the same level of caloric intake that you might, but
Sugar and
Legends on
fat.
Main, oh no, Legends on Main was perfect. So I would highly recommend if you've got a few minutes and if they're open, they seem to have kind of maybe strange hours, but they were a great place to go for a little after hike lunch.
Not open on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, as I recall.
Is that what it
So
was?
maybe
Okay.
check the times and hours. Yeah, I have a recommendation. A new place I went to recently in Trinidad. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, I went to a place called The Well, and they have some Mediterranean food and some American food.
Mm.
Trinidad's always been kind of hit or miss. There's a Chinese buffet there that's pretty good. There's a barbecue joint there that's not open all the time, but it's pretty good when you go there. But yeah, the well was actually not too bad. I got a pita sandwich with some gyro meat and whatnot, and it was quite tasty.
Yeah,
So
that sounds good.
if you are of the drinking persuasion, they just basically have open taps, and I've never seen this before. You just kind of wave your credit card in front of it, and then you get a glass and you just pour yourself a pint.
Like a
Um,
self-serve.
it's
Interesting.
self-serve beer. So
Huh.
I didn't know that was legal, but
You are
apparently it
your own
is.
bartender.
You are your
Huh.
own bartender, my friend. So, yeah, the well was not all that bad, and maybe a nice little spot to go to if you're headed south or east. Go on your hike and then go grab a beer or four at the well.
All right. Well, Zach, that's our review of West Spanish Peak. So that's number one. Number two on our list, you've got a spot in New Mexico, yeah?
Yeah, well, I feel like I've got to represent my home state here. I mean, really, if you're thinking about spots that are great hikes or climbs that aren't going to have a ton of snow, the further south you go, the better.
Good
And
call.
the place south of Colorado is New Mexico. So
The last
uh,
I checked.
New Mexico's got five named and ranked 13ers. There's Wheeler Peak, and then the one next to it's called Big Mike. There's
Big
actually
Mike.
a
Wow.
Simpson Peak that's next to Wheeler Peak as well. There's the Wheeler Group, and then there are to the far south end. I think the southernmost 13ers in the continental United States are the Truchas Peaks, and those are basically in between Santa Fe and Taos, if kind of
Yeah.
directionally is where you want to be thinking of here. And I think if someone wants to do an early season backpacking trip, I would highly commend North Truchas Peak. So this is a 13er. It's not much above 13,000 feet, but this is a 13er in between Santa Fe and Taos. From trailhead to summit is about 23 to 25 miles. So we're not talking, I mean, look, if you can bang that out in a day, God bless you. Maybe end of season I could do that, but early as an early season hike, that's a negative. Um, so I am recommending this as an early season backpacking trip through a
Mm.
really lovely valley with lots of wildflowers. And I think you should do it as an early season hike for a couple reasons. So the trailhead you want to go to is the Santa Barbara Trailhead. For those of you that go pick up a map of the Truchas Peaks, you will notice that there are trailheads that will access the peaks from the west. That is not recommended. If you go to the Forest Service website in New Mexico, there's a lot of vandalism at those trailheads that
I
come
think you've
out
talked
of,
about this before.
yeah, they come out of Espanola and that area, or the town of Truchas, kind of the high road between Santa Fe and Taos. Those trailheads have been notorious for vandalism, for theft, people just messing around with your car.
Mm.
That is not recommended. The trailheads that are recommended are either from the south, so that would be Iron Gate or Jacks Creek trailheads in the Pecos, or from the north, which would be Santa Barbara. So I can give advice for both, but since we're just talking about North Truchas today, I think you should come from the north and Santa Barbara trailhead. So this is off the high road to Taos as well. So you've got some options here. You'll hike in. It's basically an in and out. It's not a, you can make it a loop, but it's not really intended as a loop. If you go about 4 or 5 miles along the trail, you'll run into a bunch of cool little meadows. Those are all viable places to camp. If you decide to go beyond the meadows and go up some switchbacks, know that you are committed for at least another 2.5 to 3 miles. In the switchback portion of the trail, there's really no camping at all. I know this because I was looking for a campsite. And I was like, I want to be done with the backpack. And I'm like, nope. The trail's like, no, you're not done.
And then you got to
Um,
go uphill too, I'm assuming,
oh,
if
oh,
there's switchbacks there.
oh yeah, you're going uphill.
Oh
Um,
man.
so yeah, know that if you go past the last meadow and there's a stream crossing there, if you go past that stream crossing and you start doing the switchbacks, you've got at least another 2.5 miles of just kind of walking uphill before you find a couple good campsites. And then from then on, before you get to tree line, there will be 5 or 6 good spots that you can just kind of open camp on. There's a fair amount of water there, especially if you go early in the season. The other reason to go early in the season there is that New Mexico, there is a fair amount of open grazing in the summer, and usually they don't start that until mid-June. And so you want to get up there before the cows get up there.
Yeah.
Because once the cows are there, they're kind of just roaming around, just pooping all over the place. And I actually was there right when the cows came in, and I was like, these things are everywhere and they smell. Um, and cows are kind of weird, they kind of mad dog me a little bit there. They're like, "What are you
Uh-oh.
doing here?"
Oh no.
I'm hiking here. What are you doing here?
So the cows are open grazing, like not other human beings or like strange wildlife, like elk or whatever, just roaming around.
I actually did see some deer in my campsite. Like I definitely heard elk in the middle of the night, but
Oh wow.
once the cows move in, cows tend to kind of displace wildlife, especially because they bring humans with them that
Mm,
are on horses or dogs that are protecting them. So, yeah, another good reason to go early in the season if you're going to Santa Barbara. If you go through the Pecos, that's a wilderness area and there's no grazing there. So,
okay.
yeah, from there though, there's basically a trail all the way up to the saddle below North Truchas. So,
Mm,
if you camp out and then get up the next morning, you can hike up to the saddle, and then North Truchas, kind of like West Spanish Peak, really quick little jaunt up this saddle. It's really not bad, not much of a struggle at all, and it's fantastic. Pretty easy hike at that point. Really, the hard part's the backpack in and making that
oh,
choice of, do I go beyond this meadow or do I camp somewhere in the shadow of the peak, as it were?
yeah. So it sounds like for early season hike, the ideal way to pursue it is to backpack as little as possible, which sounds like it's about 4 or 5 miles in, and
Yeah,
then kind of hike the trail the rest of the way, basically to the saddle, and then just kind of hop, skip, and a jump up to the summit.
yeah, and that brings me to ideally how I would do this, which is going to allow me to integrate a bunch of our things here, Eric. So if I'm doing this hike and I'm coming from, most people listening to this probably coming from Colorado or somewhere like that, what I would do is make sure I'm somewhere around Taos about lunchtime. What you do there is you go to this restaurant called Guti's, and they have Spanish food. They have great brunch. Get the eggs Benedict, which is the most rich, buttery, yolky hollandaise you'll ever eat in your entire life. You load up calorically on that bad boy, book it down to the Santa Barbara trailhead, hike in your 5 miles, or if the hollandaise is really working, hike in 7 or 8 miles, pitch a tent, have dinner, and then the next day summit and hike out. That to me, like chef's kiss. That's the absolute best way to go about a day in the Sangres like that. I think that's a perfect day. There's obviously other great places to eat in Santa Fe or Taos,
Mm.
loads of them, but I think that would be a ton of fun to do it like that. And heck, while you're at Gutierrez, get a nice chai. They put a little chili in their chai, and
Mm.
then you'll be running on caffeine and butter, and there's really nothing better than that. So yeah, that I think would be a fantastic combination. And it leads you to kind of like Spanish Peaks, just a really great summit, kind of at the northern end of the Truchas Peaks. You can do the other Truchas Peaks too. That'll add some mileage. So that would be Truchas Peak proper, and then Medio Truchas or Middle Truchas. And those are two named and ranked 13ers. So you can do those. That'll obviously add some distance to your day, and it may require then an additional night of staying. But if you just want to nab the one peak and it's early season and you don't want to push it too much, just backpacking in and grabbing the one and then heading home makes a great day. There's great views, and you get to look out on to the west. You're looking out on Georgia O'Keeffe country and red sandstone bluffs and blue mountains. And then to the north, you're looking at the Sangre de Cristos towards Wheeler Peak and towards Spanish Peak and Culebra and all that. And to the south, you're kind of looking towards the Pecos. And if you look far enough, you could probably see Santa Fe and Albuquerque. So great view, great spot. I dearly love New Mexico because it's got its own flavor. It's a little drier,
Yep.
but those are peaks that people don't do as frequently, but they're fantastic.
That's awesome. So you described kind of the distances for North Truchas. If someone were to add Truchas proper and Medio Truchas, any thoughts on difficulty of adding those on? Are those like just kind of class two ridge walks along there, and then you kind of go back the way you came, or how would you add on those two if you're going to look at North Truchas?
So a couple things to be said. So the difficulty of just North Truchas, that's like a class 1+ or 2
Yeah.
hike, right? Like you're doing a trail to a saddle and then you're just walking up a really easy grassy slope. The traverse from North Truchas to Truchas is class 2+. There are a couple
Oh,
sketchy sections there. Some people even will say it's class 3. I don't think it's 3, but it's something to consider if it's early season and there's still some snow on there. That would
yeah.
increase the level of difficulty, which is why I'm maybe not recommending it here. But if you look out and you feel comfortable, that's the crux of it. It's about 2+/3 for that traverse. And then from Truchas to Medio Truchas isn't as hard. It's class 2. If you were to do that leg of it, you would add about 6 miles. So
Okay.
you're taking it from a about 23, 24 mile round trip to about a 30 mile round trip at that point, which may for some people be 2 days because going up Truchas or North Truchas and then looping those in and then getting back to camp may put you back a little later.
Yeah.
So that may add an extra evening. That to me is a wonderful 3 day backpacking trip. That'd be great fun. Heck, if you're doing that, then go get some of the 12ers around the area too while you're at it. There's some really cool 12ers around there. But that would allow you, if you threw those in, to hike below the Truchas Peaks on the east side. And there's some cool trails along there. Most of these trails are pretty well marked, so you're not going to worry about getting lost. Civilian Conservation Corps built some really good trails in New Mexico in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So those are good trails. Obviously, on the ridge lines, it's just kind of choose your own adventure. But yeah, I think that's definitely an option.
Okay.
Maybe not as desirable early season, but you know, everybody's got different fitness levels. If they feel up to it, I think that's probably a good way to go.
That sounds awesome. I just got one other question. So, in
Yeah.
terms of likelihood of running into snow, we're talking about early season hikes. I guess, what would be the safe window to pursue North Truchas and feel fairly confident that there won't be any snow that you run into?
So there's another way to monitor this. There's a ski area kind of north of there called Red River, and Red River
Hmm.
has webcams. And
You just
so
know all about all the the webcams and the drones.
Uh,
You're just all up in it.
I may or may not be a guy in Oklahoma that's trying to monitor conditions remotely here. So, yeah, I would look at the Red River webcams because that's a ski area, and that should be a pretty good proxy. So the only thing about North Truchas is you will be hiking in from the north, and the
Mm,
saddle you'll be going up is a north facing slope, so it will hold snow
mm.
longer
Yeah.
than
Yep.
other parts of that trail will. So when I did it in early June, I did run into snow and I did have to walk over a fair amount of snow there. Now, what's weird is the backpack in was like sunny meadows with flowers that were dry, but that north facing slope did hold a bit of snow. So I would use Red River as a proxy to kind of know what those conditions are and kind of tell you how much snow that mountain may be holding. It's entirely possible that you run into a little bit of snow there early season. Like right now in 2026, I would say it's impossible that you would run into any snow there. But in an average snow year, that's going to hold snow until maybe mid June. I would say June 15th or somewhere around there. New Mexico is obviously going to dry out quicker and melt off faster than the rest of the state will. But yeah, that's a good question.
Got it.
So, Eric, do you have one you would like to add to our early season hikes?
I do, and I think you've hiked this one too. So for North Truchas, there's sounds like there's quite a bit of mileage, and maybe not a lot of it is strenuous, but
Hmm.
there's just a lot of a long round trip. I'm going the exact opposite with my solo pick for an early season hike. I see on 14ers.com the round trip is about 3 miles, 3 whole miles, and less than 2,000 feet of gain. So I'm gonna go to old Mount Buckskin
All
for
right.
an early season hike. This was actually my first hike of 2025 in early July, so it fits pretty well. You actually get there using the Kite Lake trailhead, the same one that the DeCalibron can be accessed from most commonly. But instead of taking the typical route up Mount Democrat or Mount Ross, the way that most people would be doing in the summer if you go on a weekend, you'll want to take a trail towards Lake Emma, which is in that same area. And soon enough, you will curve off that trail. Actually, I should say ahead of that, there is a cost to park at the Kite Lake trailhead,
Hmm.
depending on when. If you're listening to this in the year 2173, it might be like $30, but at this point, the fee is somewhere in the $8 to $10 range. Most cars can get to that trailhead fairly straightforwardly. And so you'll take this Emma Lake Trail for a very short time, and then you kind of cut off the trail towards southeast of Mount Buckskin is kind of where you're going to target. There's a bunch of power lines that you'll kind of
Yeah.
start looking for, and you'll have a couple of stream crossings. Now, this is where the great pants tearing incident of 2025 happened, for me at least. So I got this nice new pair of Eddie Bauer pants, are really lightweight and comfy. And on the very first hike, I take them to Mount Buckskin, and I'm crossing these rivulets, these very tiny little streams. And I hop over the first one perfectly, and for the second one, I somehow forgot how to walk, and I trip and I fall and I gash my knee on a rock, and my pants tear open and my knees cut open. Not starting out the summer hiking season very well at that point, but persevered on, went through the rest of the willows and kind of
Now, are
there's a
you?
little bit.
We got to pause here, Eric. Are
Oh
you
no.
walking with torn up pants?
I am.
So,
Yeah, and bloody pants too.
okay. So, wow. I'm
I
just.
probably
You're
I
painting a
probably look
picture
like I
here.
came out of a horror movie is my guess.
I'm envisioning like Steve Martin from The Jerk, or a guy in a zombie film, like one of the extras for Michael
No.
Jackson's Thriller,
Oh
something like
man.
that. Just
Well, I'm not going to be dancing like that, but
yeah, just
uh
shuffling along, dragging your frayed pant leg.
oh my gosh. By the way, good call on The Jerk. That's an all-time classic movie. I love that one.
This is all I need. This lamp.
I don't need anything but this ashtray, nothing else. Wait, I do need this lamp too. No, I had nothing with me at that point other than a bloody knee and my backpack. So, but But yeah, so thankfully everybody else at that trailhead didn't see me do that. They were
Good.
all focused on the DeCalibron.
Yeah,
They
right. They're
didn't
going
care about
somewhere else. They
they
got
didn't
bigger fish to fry.
exactly. They didn't care about buckskin. Buckskin by itself is pretty straightforward. You're there is route finding because once you cut off the trail, you're done as far as like
Yeah.
class one.
And
You're
you're not on the trail very long.
it's very short, yeah. So, but it doesn't take a whole lot of effort, thankfully for me, to figure out what is the smartest way to get up to the ridge. And once you gain the ridge, it's again not very long before you actually get to the summit. Part of the problem with the summit is as you're on the summit, you might look to the north and say, you know what, there's another summit out there that looks maybe like it's a tiny bit taller. And if you were to wander over there, and then look back at the original summit that you were on, you would realize, oh, that original summit is noticeably taller than where I am now. So you would have just made that extra hike for nothing. But there is a description on 14ers.com where Middlebrook does specify that the original summit, the first one you're going to get to, is the real summit. So no need to wander off to Northwest Buckskin, as he likes to call it.
And
Um,
this is a good point to insert. I think that the description on 14ers.com is pretty thorough and pretty good in terms of the
it
route
is good.
description. Am I correct?
It is. It's very good, actually. It describes where to get off the trail. It
Yeah.
describes the fact that you are going to spend a little time trying to figure out what's the best route up to the ridge is. But yeah, overall, really good description by Middlebrook on that. And if you do that, you're, again, 3 miles round trip and not a huge ton of gain, and you get a centennial out of it. And if you want, if you got enough hitch in your giddy up, you can head down to the saddle with Loveland Mountain, which is an
Hmm.
unranked 13er just to the south of Buckskin. And actually, so once you get to the saddle, you'll find a nice trail. You can see this trail all the way from
Yeah.
the Buckskin summit, and you can just take that trail almost all the way to the top of Loveland as you'll just kind of have to discern where you turn off and turn to the left and go up another, 50 feet of gain, and then you're actually at the top. But that kind of mystified me when I was doing this. I've realized, okay, the Centennial, no trail. The unranked 13er to the south of it, good trail
Trail.
almost the whole way. Yeah.
I feel like
So
this is
just,
where we need to do one of those like 90s kids know this like the more you know like dun
oh
dun
yeah.
dun dun.
The shooting star, yeah.
Little shooting star. Kids, don't orphan peaks, especially if they're that easy. If you've taken the effort to get up Buckskin, don't do like Zach did and just go over to Loveland Peak. It's only another maybe 20 minutes away. It's really not that much elevation gain either. Don't orphan that because then you want to go back and redo Loveland Peak sometime. And it's a great area. I like that area. But I've hiked Buckskin, I think, 2 or 3 times because I've had to like nail Loveland. Like I ended up going over Buckskin to get to Loveland.
Yeah,
Or I
yep.
went up, I got to the saddle and I was like, well, I'll just go do Buckskin again. I might as well. I'm already here. Right. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, throw in a combo, do Loveland. And then your descent options are what, Eric, from there?
Basically go back the way you came. And if you're anywhere near the Saddle or Buckskin Summit, you'll probably be able to see your car because it's
Yeah.
it's a wide open space. It's really just to choose your own adventure, how much you want to bushwhack, which exact route you want to take down. If you're able to remember which power line post you went under,
That's
then
right.
that's perfect. But otherwise, you're probably not going to be in too much danger getting down, no matter how you go down, because it's pretty straightforward for the most part.
So, Eric, I have 2 questions now for you. First question, you're including this as an early season hike. What commends this as an early season hike in your mind?
The 3 mile round trip.
The ease, the fact that yeah, it's a lung warm up.
Exactly. It's a walk up. I would say, again, for a bag of donuts like me who struggles with route finding, there is a little bit of route finding, and this is a nice way to kind of figure out, okay, what is the best way to get up this? And there's really only a few real options. One is going to be super dangerous, and you obviously are not going to take it. And most of the other ones are going to be kind of gradual ascents towards the ridge. There's maybe a little bit of work you can take to figure out the easiest way, but the short round trip, the fact that you get a centennial out of it. I mean, I was
Yeah.
impressed at the fact that again, you're starting at Kite Lake, so you're starting fairly high. And if you really somehow, some way get into any trouble, there's probably going to be a lot of people there during the summer because they're doing the Decalibron. So I think the ease and the fact that you can get a Centennial plus maybe an unranked 13er on the way, I think there's a lot to commend Buckskin and especially for an early season hike.
So, same question you asked me. What's the snow situation like in a, say, in an average year?
That's a good question. So I would imagine I hiked it in early July and there was basically no snow to be found really the entire way. And again, 2025 average snow year. Most of the route that you're going to be taking is south facing, so that's probably part of why there's not going to be a lot of snow. There's just a lot of sun hitting that area. So if you were to add on Loveland Mountain, part of that's going to be a north facing route, but to your point earlier, there's not a whole lot of gain. So the sun is going to have a lot of access to that entire route.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're going to run into a whole lot of snow on even on an average year, let alone in a 2026 kind of year where we've had like half an inch of snow the whole winter. So yeah, I think that also helps commend it for an early season hike because you're probably not going to run into a whole lot of snow if you time it kind of mid to late June or later.
I've done that hike. I really like the shortness of it. For a guy like me that sometimes looks for that I'm doing multi-day trips and I need
Mm,
a tune-up hike on the first day where I'm not killing myself, but I'm kind of getting acclimated, that's always a great one. The Mosquito Peaks are just fantastic for those in general. Like, those are good day one hikes for a guy like me. So I really like that hike. We've picked three hikes that are easily accessible, that are short, or, well, I didn't pick one that was short, but they're on the easier side in terms of difficulty,
yeah.
where snow is not going to create a ridiculous impediment. Is there anywhere that in the Alma Breckenridge area that you would want to dine? Or should we cut this part out of the podcast here?
I mean, we most of the places I can think of in Breckenridge or in say Fairplay
Hmm.
are all going to be places that you and I have talked about at
Yeah.
least to some extent in the past. We've talked about the Crepe Cart in Breckenridge. We've talked about Whiskey Star Barbecue in Breckenridge is good. In Fairplay, there's Casa Sanchez, which does good Mexican food and saved my tail once after a Pennsylvania mountain debacle in the winter. And then there's Otto's you and I've been to,
Yeah.
which is pretty good, has some gluten-free options and all the French fries you could ask for. So
And
um
even more.
and yeah, even more than you could find. So those would be probably the food options that I would add to a Mount Buckskin excursion.
That's fantastic. Buckskin's great. All these are good spots to go have perches and look at other peaks too. Like
Yeah.
the view on Buckskin's great. Like you're looking up the 10 Mile and Mosquito Range and you're looking down the Mosquito Range. You could see all the way to Holy Cross on a good day.
Yeah,
Another great spot there. So a lot of these kind of wet the whistle for doing some more hiking
that's
and
right.
for getting up and seeing some other beautiful spots. So
Yeah.
I think this is a nice little trinity of good early season hikes that people should get out and do. If they're listening to this, hopefully they've gotten themselves in shape. They've worked off my winter flab at least, and they're ready to get at it and ready to go see some of these really pretty spots.
I love it. Well, Zach, what are we going to talk about on our next episode?
Well, Eric, I think in the next episode we're going to debut a new segment, which is we're going to do a little book review, the Greens and Blues book review segment, where we're going to look at some classic guidebooks. I've
Mm.
got some classic guides that I've been kind of collecting, and I mean, I think it's only fitting that we look at one of Roach's original 14er guidebooks. So we'll start there and just go through the old. Now, a lot of people may say these are passe. You know, we've got 14ers.com. There's an app now. There's all these other websites. But the lost art of guidebook writing is still, I think, one that maybe demands a bit of attention, and we can have a fun and humorous review of some of the features of a Roach guidebook and have a little chat about that. So that's what we've got to look forward to in our next episode.
I love it. And I know we're going to include his 14er guidebook as kind of the OG will we include his and Jennifer's 13er guidebook as well, or are we going to focus on the 14er one to start?
I think at some point we should do the 13er guidebook, but I think we should just stick to Jerry's 14er guidebook just as a standalone. The 13er guidebook is kind of hard to find, actually. It's been in and out
Mm,
of print at various points. For me, it is required reading. I love that book.
it's a
But
great one.
so, Eric, if people want to get in touch with us in the meantime, send us a voicemail, send us an email, send us a Facebook DM. How can they do so?
Send us all of the above and more from our website, which is greensandbluespodcast.podbean.com. As Zach mentioned, you can leave us a voicemail from your computer that way. You can get to our YouTube channel. You can get to our Facebook page. You can find the various ways that you can even listen to this podcast. If you're tired of Spotify or you're tired of iTunes or whatever, and you want to find some other provider, links to all of our sources are there. Or you can just do the old-fashioned email thing, which is greensandbluespodcast@gmail.com. Or you can send Zach a bunch of French fries to Norman, Oklahoma. You can UPS ground them to him so that they get all stale and moldy by the time they get to him.
We used to do that in high school, or in middle school, like right before Christmas break. We'd break into kids' lockers and put like a sandwich in there and then
Oh man, yeah.
relock it so when they came back in 3 weeks, there's a moldy sandwich in their locker. I mean, if someone was to do that, but also maybe attach like a, hey, just pranking you. And if they want to take the time to like send me an envelope full of fries in Norman, Oklahoma, I'll take it. They're McDonald's fries. They probably won't go moldy. They'll probably
That's yeah, probably the
just
stay.
microwave those bad boys and they're good to go. So I'd appreciate that. We appreciate you guys and your interactions with us, the people that listen to us. Thanks so much for listening. Because it's already the beginning of summer when you guys will be listening to this, we wish you guys a happy, safe hiking season and see you again in a few weeks.